this morning. Welcome to the program year 2023 Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Grant Program for Cuyahoga County. There's a lot of panelists here, so I think that while we're waiting for the last couple people to sign on, we'll start with the introductions. And so my name is Allison Ball. I'll start with me. I'm the Planning Initiative Specialist here at Cuyahoga County Planning Commission. And so I'll pass this over to the next square I see, and that's Kristen Hall. So her mouth is full. So Jared Bartley.
I'm good. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. Kristen Hall. I'm the Executive Director of Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District. And we help a lot with the inspection side of this program. So Jared, I'll turn it over to you.
Jared Bartley, I'm Deputy Director for Education Watershed Programs here at Cuyahoga SWCD. And I'll going to my next square I see, I'll go to Robert.
Hi, thanks. I'm the Watershed Program Manager with the Board of Health, and I assist with reviewing this and with the tree work. And Mike.
I'm Mike Foley. I'm the Sustainability Director for the county. And Valerie Katz is with us too. Valerie.
Hi, I'm Valerie. I'm the Deputy Director of Sustainability for the county. And last but not least, we have Susan.
Hi, Susan Enfeld. I'm the Manager of Planning Initiatives at the County Planning Commission.
All right, great. So I'm going to share the screen, share, and somehow we made it to the middle. There we are. So again, welcome to the Cuyahoga Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Grant Program application workshop or webinar. If you have questions, feel free to use the chat function or Q&A. And we run this program as a partnership with everyone that was just introduced. So we already got the first thing off our agenda, welcome and introductions. Today, we're going to give you an overview of the Cuyahoga County Climate Change Action Plan, which this became this program is helping to implement that action plan, and the summary of the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy program to date. And then we'll dive into what you're all here for, which is the implementing the Cuyahoga County Healthy Urban Tree Canopy program in program year 2023. We'll review the purpose. What's new in program year 2023? There's a lot that is new, program guidelines, important links, and an application demo, and what if I get funded? So let's see, we already have it. Oh, thanks. Kristen's going to keep an eye on the chat. So I'll turn it over to Valerie for the sustainable. You're on mute, Valerie.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so this is just a little bit of background about the program. So in 2019, the County Sustainability Department published our Climate Action Plan, and this was with the help of the County Planning Commission, as well as several other partners. And this is a comprehensive countywide plan, which, as you can see from the slide, has goals around greenhouse gas reductions. And while our plan includes a number of energy-related strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we understand that one of the simplest ways to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is to plant trees. So, the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Grant Program really emerged from our Climate Action Plan. And as everybody here knows, trees have a number of other important benefits, such as improving water quality, reducing erosion, lowering city temperatures, the urban heat island effect, reducing air pollution, improving quality of life, and many more benefits. So the county has committed $1 million per year for this program, and we're currently in the 4th year. So this is our 4th round of our grant program.
Great, thank you, Valerie. So this slide shows the results from the Cuyahoga County Urban Tree Canopy Assessment that was the data was collected in 2017, but the assessment was published in 2019. This was an update to an assessment that was originally done in 2013. Again, the data was collected in 2011. And it was pretty alarming, the amount of tree loss that we are seeing. The county lost about 6% of tree canopy in those 6 years. The tree canopy loss is due to development, it's due to extreme storm damage, it's due to pests and alien tree diseases. So it is a real concern. And if you look at this map, we only have two communities that are in the green, and about 6 communities out of the 59 that stayed even or increased their tree canopy. So this program is really important. Here we were able to map the tree canopy loss greater than an acre between 2011 and 2017. So you can see that this tree canopy loss is spread out countywide. So this Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Program, we started in 2019 and we took a break in 2020. There was a global pandemic, but the past 3 program years, there were 78 projects that were awarded funds, and this went to 37 different applicants from 22 of the 59 municipalities. This resulted in the planting of over 6,750 trees. And again, we're in the middle of tree planting season, so I know that Jared can attest that this number is going up every day through this program, so that's great. It funded 21 plans for future planting work, and these plans also identified different areas for planting, and over 16,000 potential planting sites have been identified. This program also helped funding for 2 tree nurseries locally in Cuyahoga County. So it's a very good program. This was the summary of the program results from program year 2022 last year. You can see all the communities that were awarded funding in the green, and the darker the green, the more trees they were going to plant. So, but it's a really great program, and we're seeing the impact countywide. So the purpose of this program is to increase tree canopy and like Valerie said, help lessen the impacts of climate change. The program goals are to add large-scale planting, expand tree canopy, especially in areas that are vulnerable, plant trees in open or vacant parcels, establish new tree canopy, and also protect existing tree canopy. And you'll see that there's more of an emphasis on that this year than in previous years, and also continue to establish plans and policies that promote and protect tree canopy. So for those of you that have applied every year, what is new in program year 2023, the eligibility. Applicants that have an open project from a previous funding round are not eligible to apply. This will help spread out the money, also give you the attention you need to finish out your projects, and then you can come back after you complete that project. The application materials are new this year, and it's very different, and we're going to go over that in great details with both a live demo and then just some slides with tips and tricks for filling out this new form. In the past, we had 2 different Excel appendices. Now the whole application form is an Excel form, and it must be submitted electronically as a Microsoft Excel document. And we can talk a little bit more about that. You can lock all the cells. There's ways to protect it or ways to submit the PDF version if you're concerned about any changes during evaluation. But the actual form must be submitted as an Excel document. And then we're also adding a more extensive post-grant reporting requirement, which includes an annual progress report that describes the health of the planted trees for 3 years following the completion of the grant, and telling us which trees are making it and which aren't. And we need to track this just a little bit more extensively than we have been. So who's eligible to apply? Local subdivisions, including municipalities, townships, villages, and special districts, school districts, library districts, and park districts, community development corporations, and nonprofit corporations are allowed to apply. The nonprofit corporation could include watershed groups, but they must be exempt from federal income tax, and its mission must support environmental conservation or watershed activities. So basically there's 3 types of grants that we're giving out, and possibly a 4th category. The first is the tree planting grants, and this is extensively planting grants that will fund planting and associated activities that preserve and expand tree canopy in Cuyahoga County. Eligible activities include, but are not limited to, purchasing and planting of trees, especially if they are recommended in an existing tree plan, stocking the county tree nurseries, mulching, removing and replacing trees, watering, staking, guying, and or trunk guards. This year we have a type of grant that supports a little more maintenance than we have had in the past. So maintenance grants will fund tree maintenance activities which are mentioned in a community's existing tree plan or tree risk assessment, with preference for maintenance activities on large mature trees and activities which address disease and invasive species threats. Eligible activities include, but are not limited to, hiring consultants for technical assistance, tree pruning, removing high risk or dead trees, root collar surgery, other necessary ways to protect the tree and also protect it against pests and disease. It must include a tree planting component. Tom, I see that your hand is raised. If you could write your question in the chat, that would be helpful.
Actually, the Q&A I think would be better because then I think, everyone can see
Okay.
it.
I see.
Yes, and we are getting a few questions. So when you hit a good stopping point, Allison, we can go through those.
Okay, great. Let's get through this before we talk about how to submit your application, and we'll do the Q&A there. So planting and tree planting grants. So we've only started with the planning, and there's still communities that could benefit from having this master tree plan. So planning grants will fund activities to develop inventories or urban forestry management plans that include potential planting sites. And the eligible activities include, but are not limited to, hiring consultants for technical and organizational assistance, developing an urban forestry management plan, forming a tree commission, developing local tree laws, conducting a tree inventory and or Ohio Urban Site Index, identifying best management practices, and again, it must include a tree planting component. So hopefully, even though you don't have the plan in place, you might know of areas that are in need of these trees that will just be informed by this planting. So hopefully you have that information. So when we look at the funding this year, the allocation is $950,000. At least 50% of grant funds will be awarded to planting projects with a preference for large canopy trees. A maximum of 25% of grant funds will be awarded to combined planning and planting, and a maximum of 25% of grant funds will be awarded to combined maintenance and planting projects. So again, we still see the loss and recognize the need to start growing new canopy for the future. Keep that in mind. So this is some more information. The county anticipates that it will not award more than 50% of available grant funds within a single municipality. Typical grant awards are expected to be approximately $50,000 to $100,000. High impact reforestation projects may be awarded up to $200,000. So again, this is just a more intensive planting grant. but to be considered high impact, it has to be over 5 contiguous acres and not linear, just a good chunk of land. So also the Healthy Urban, just a disclaimer, the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Evaluation Team reserves the right to change the allocation based on the project submitted. And a reminder that the planning and maintenance projects must incorporate tree planting within the term of the project to be considered for funding. So last 2 points, projects that reforest vacant or open parcels of land, not including the right-of-way and other highly linear installations, require a letter or agreement that shows that the property owner or owner's agent has granted permission to the applicant to plant and maintain trees on vacant or open parcels for a minimum of 10 years. This gives the trees the time to grow into canopy. It also shows that there's an investment that's going to be followed up. And finally, oh, there it is. The high impact reforestation projects reforest 5 or more acres of contiguous land. Higher grant award amounts will be available for a limited number of high impact projects. So there is a match requirement. Applicants are required to provide a minimum of 10% match. So the municipalities, townships, school districts, and library districts shall provide a minimum match of 10% of the grant request or award. Again, if we don't give you all of that, we'll work with you to your request. We'll work with you on your budget to redo that. But this might be a slight change from last year. It's definitely the grant request. The community development corporations, nonprofit corporations, and park districts with less than 5 million in assets shall provide a minimum match of 10% of the grant request. And those nonprofits and park districts with 5 million or more in assets shall provide a minimum match of 50% of the grant request or award. So to determine the appropriate local match, applicants can research their reported assets on the Ohio Attorney General website. So again, if you're not familiar, you can just use the link. This is also on our website. Let's see, Cleveland Playhouse. Search. Oh, it's processing. And then you come down here and you can click on the details and see your reported assets. I'm using a nonprofit that is not eligible, but you can see their total assets. They would be required to have the 50%. So that's how
Alison,
you know.
If
Yes.
I may, I see there was a question about the land bank. Maybe show that quickly. Otherwise, leave it. Continue. Apologies.
Okay. So the eligible costs. So the eligible costs include purchasing and planting trees, stocking the tree nursery, mulching, pruning, removing, replacing trees, watering, staking, guying, trunk guards, and other tree protection practices, hiring consultants, developing an urban forestry management plan, and conducting a tree inventory and or Ohio Urban Site Index. Again, this list isn't written in stone. If you have a question about an idea, you can, and you don't ask it today, you can always reach out and discuss with us. More importantly, what this grant doesn't pay for, costs not included in the Cuyahoga County Urban Tree Canopy Project Expenses worksheet. So if you don't have it in your budget, it's not going to be reimbursed. Salaries for grant administration costs, such as application preparation, preparation of reimbursement, travel-related expenses, or project reporting requirements. This grant doesn't pay for computers or software. It doesn't pay for capital equipment, purchases, spades, gloves, hoses, heavy equipment, or other gardening equipment, or sales taxes. So
Allison, one quick note to make on
Yeah.
that, because it came up when we were preparing the application.
Yes.
Capital equipment, while it is not an eligible cost for this grant,
Yes.
it is an eligible match cost, and that is spelled out in the application as well, but it's important to note that it is an eligible matching cost.
Yes. Thank you. So evaluation criteria, and this is just very general. When responding to questions, please note all applications will be evaluated based on the following: how the project fits into the current community urban forest initiatives, the community need for tree canopy based on percent coverage noted in the 2019 Cuyahoga County Urban Tree Canopy Assessment, climate vulnerability assessment and equity zones, planting plans, maintenance and survivability plans, and innovation and other factors. So, and I will say the community need, and you'll see that in this. Again, here are the criteria and that we're looking at. The budget and local match is 10%. The project management readiness to proceed and adequacy of planning, urban forestry initiatives, qualified personnel, implementation and survivability, climate vulnerability assessment, equity zones, existing tree canopy coverage, community impact and need, and innovation and other factors. So I think right here is a good place to stop. Perhaps I answered some of your questions. And let's see.
Allison, I can give you a quick run through just based on what I'm seeing so far. The first couple are related to, I think, the eligibility and definitions of applicants. So first is a land bank considered a CDC?
Well, Jared is typing an answer. Jared, do you want to jump on and answer?
Yeah, just a second. I think a CDC is a CDC, so I think the land bank would be part of the local government to which it belongs. For instance, the city Cleveland Land Bank would be part of the city of Cleveland, etc. As the applicant entity. If there are some land banks out there we're not aware of that might be structured differently, we can talk about that individually. But I think, the county land bank would be part of the county, etc.
Although, can I jump in for a minute here? I do think that the Cleveland Land Bank is on their website. They identify themselves as a nonprofit organization. So if it's incorporated that way,
Right.
then you would be considered a nonprofit. And Kamala, you would be, the percentage match requirement would be dependent on your overall assets using that website that Allison had referred to earlier. So it basically depends on how you're incorporated, I believe.
The next question then is, how do you define a community development organization?
So CDCs are defined by the Ohio Revised Code. And I will have to look that up and get back to you on that specifically.
And a more general one that I think I know the answer to, we are going to be sharing these slides and the recording of the webinar on the HUTC website, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. That answers a couple questions.
And can I jump in here to the second question from Lee Roth? Lee, if this is a project that your organization or group would be partnering with your local municipality or with a CDC, might be a way for you to consider your project. If your organization is not a CDC already, see if you can approach your local municipality and they might be the sponsor who would work with you to get the work done, or see if you can approach a local CDC and do the same thing. Have your organization partner with that CDC, and the CDC would be the applicant.
All right. The next question is the maintenance grant an additional grant? Can a group apply for a maintenance grant and a tree planting/planting grant? And I'll just maybe quickly reply, and Allison, or anyone else, give me some info. Municipalities are welcome to apply for more than one grant, but this is a very competitive grant program. So we are going to evaluate each application as its own standalone application, and you will be sort of evaluated as such. So I would recommend making sure that you have, if you're planning to do more than one, they need to be very strong, or maybe prioritize which one is more important in your community.
And I would say that too, if you're looking at a maintenance grant, we're going to be looking for the maintenance need in the supplemental information from a planning. So perhaps work on one step at a time. And because that planning, that master plan will set you up for future rounds of funding. And we have seen this through the years. Our first year, we did the most, we funded more planning grants than actual tree planting. And then we see these communities come back and they show us where the planting is going to be, what the trees that they need for that particular site, because we're looking at right tree, right time. So, or where the maintenance is needed. So again, and that tree risk assessment that might go into your master plan. So you can, you know, take a step back and consider what's going to be the priority for your community at this time, or your organization.
We had a question about need more info on tree maintenance and oak wilt pruning, but I don't know that that's specific enough to know exactly what the question is there. So Tom, if you would like to elaborate any more in the Q&A, please do. We'll circle back to that one.
I was gonna say too, this that is pretty big, and we will open it up to Q&A after the program for people that want to stay on and get a little more detail, and we can bring you up to the panelists and have that discussion as well. So
next one, for tree planting projects, can grant funds be used by the grant sponsor / implementer to hire a subcontractor to lead and manage the project? If not, that can this be counted as match instead?
Well, I mean, so I think as far as we're talking grant administration, then that's not an eligible cost. If we're talking subcontractor to plant the trees, et cetera, that's definitely an eligible cost.
or run the process to get that tree plan as well. We've seen
Right.
Subcontractors create the plan. So, and again, it can be used as grant funds, or it can be used as match.
And I would highly recommend, if there are questions about, you know, whether or not a certain funding source or type of activity is eligible, please ask that of our team long before the applications are due, so that we can give you some guidance, because once we are evaluating them, it's going to be kind of based on the criteria that's been set. So would rather get that sorted out sooner rather than later. The next question from Lee, I'll field this one. I've noticed that trees planted in the past through this program are still at stakes or water bags. They should be removed after a certain number of years. Does our grant include any aspect to address these? And I'll say Cuyahoga Soil and Water is working not only from the inspection side, but we're trying to understand what our capacity is to start doing some more long-term investigation of how our HUTC trees are doing. Are they still alive? What's our overall survivability rate for the program? We're going to probably be kicking that off over this next planting year, 23-24. And those may be things that are included in future programs. So I highly encourage, if you're perhaps one of those culprits that Lee is referring to, maybe go back and revisit your trees. While that won't have a big implication for this year's application, those may be evaluation criteria in future years of how well you're actually maintaining trees that have been funded through this program.
All right. How do
Also,
we
just to
build-
add on to that, like we review and approve like maintenance plans for the trees. So to make sure like you're actually thinking about that. But we don't have a mechanism once the grant is over at this point to go back.
One final question, and this is one I think we may also need to circle back on, or at least for now, and Allison will get to the rest after that. How do we bill for watering that will take place after the grant period has ended? And I think those would be likely part of matching funds, but you know, as far as I understand it, all funding that is matching needs to be completed within that 18-month period. So if we have any more clarity on that, I think we can circle back after and define that. Or Jared, if you've got anything to add.
No, I did. All funds need to be expended by the end of the period. So I don't know. However, that we can talk about some ways to get creative with that, but I think it's a one by one kind of thing. So.
Right. So again, is there a certain percentage of budget that is required for the planting? And again, we don't necessarily have that, but if you're going to be, we want to see what comes in, but keep in mind that there is a focus on planting and, you know, and where it's needed. Again, it's the community need and impact that you need to consider. So, but we do expect to see a good portion of planting as well as maintenance. I know it's a little vague.
And maybe Allison, to clarify, this question is asking if you're doing a maintenance project, how many trees do you need to have planted? We as a team don't have a set number because we recognize if you need funding for maintenance, chances are you don't want to be planting a lot of new trees that you can't take care of. But we still, you know, we have goals of increasing our tree canopy. So we need to see some trees as part of those maintenance applications.
We understand that well over half the budget could be maintenance, and that is okay.
All right.
All right.
You have more questions? Do you want me to keep going? Or?
No, I want to
Okay.
move on because some of them are pretty specific. And then again, I want to make sure that we honor the time for the initial thing, and we can stay on a little bit longer, and we'll get to these. And there's going to be more questions as we keep talking. So this, I'm going to start with the live demo of this, and then I'll go into the links so that you can see this new form and format. So the first thing that you should see is that you go to open this link, and it'll download down here, and you'll need to show in the folder. And so 1035, let's, whoops, I don't want to do that. You want to, hold on. So you're going to need to go to properties, and I have another slide on this, and I can do this again at the, and we are recording this, so you'll see it. This is a macro, this Excel form has macros, so you'll need to unblock for the security for this specific form. If you have issues, contact me and we will make sure you can get that and walk it up. But then when you do that, you can open this up. And here, whoops, I've opened it up several times. And here you see our new Excel program. So any of the areas shaded in gray need to be filled in. If it's in white, you cannot fill it in. So your applicant, the contact information, the address, phone number, email, project name, the project type. Okay, so you can only apply for one type, and these are radio buttons. So if you want to do planting and tree planting and maintenance and tree planting, it's not going to let you pick both. So that might answer somebody's question. For any narrative box, we have a little cutout that'll show you. This is a project description statement. This is a very short project description. This is a 250 character limit. Describe the project, maybe the expected outcome. It will be a brief narrative used for project agreements for the successful applicants, right, in the awards. So one thing to note is if you're gonna be writing in these, whoops, I kind of went down, but what you'll notice is, and I tried to make it so it stops at the project limits, but occasionally some people we'll be able to go down further. Just know that that's all we're going to see and that's all we're going to read. So if you need to, you know, do a word review and get your character limits, I highly recommend that. So for the best application, there you go. See all those extra sentences we did not see. The dollar amount, again, just 55,000, right? This is just, that'll automatically calculate, wait, you didn't meet your match requirements. So 20,000 match. And there you go. You now have your match requirement. However, you are now going to have to give us the details in the project expenses worksheet. For those of you that have previously applied, this was Appendix A. We have changed it up. So there are budget categories. Just pick your category, personnel, or is it the trees? And then in here, give the type, the quantity, an estimated cost per unit, estimated hours, staff title, etc. We want you to be as specific as possible, but we realize that some of you have bidding processes that you may have to go through, and you may not know where you're getting the supplies, where you're getting the trees. So we need as much information as you can give to us. And again, for the budget categories, what I would like to remind you in, and this is in a slide a little bit down, I believe it's pages 12 and 13, give you the definitions for these budget categories. Don't forget that we do have a very extensive applicant manual that is giving you all the same information we're presenting today, as well as more, and you can use that when you follow along. Again, for the trees, you might order 151 1.75 inch caliper balls and burlap trees. So, and that's going to be approximately $200 per tree. And we need that grant amount, and that's 200. So, and again, it automatically populates into the total cost. Your total will be calculated down here, your total match, your percentages, and the total estimated cost. So that is going to be, again, so all you need to do is put in everything, and all this other stuff is based on the equations that are hidden and locked. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, we will ask for really detailed information, and we might contact you if we don't find enough details. If it's workshop materials, we might call you back and say, what materials are you getting for your workshop? If you're going to say tree planting and it includes the contractor fees, we're going to ask you to separate those out. Okay, so we need very detailed. And again, it's described in pages 12 and 13 what we're looking at in these different categories.
So to add to that, you may need to request, if you are using a third party to do your tree planting for you, sometimes they'll give you a quote for the total cost for tree plus planting. You may need to ask them to separate that out, because there is separate categories for the trees themselves, and then for contractual, which would be the actual services to plant.
Thank you. This again was from a previous, similar to the previous application. We have the project schedule, the project start date, the project end date. Again, you have 18 months to complete this project. Just keep in mind that if you want to apply in the subsequent program year, that you might want to end it a little earlier or get that project finished before the 12-month period. So again, not to exceed 18 months, date and year, May 2023. That's all we need. We don't need the exact dates, just kind of an estimate on what the activities are. Again, this is one of the appendices that was now incorporated into the application this year. This is the proposed number of trees, proposed cost per tree, tree species, botanical and common name. Is it a native tree? Yes or no? Bald burlap container, bare roots, and caliper in inches. So what we'll do is this will calculate the total number of trees, and this will calculate the proposed average cost per tree. You'll think, well, that's new. We did that math in our head during the evaluation, so you should know that we're doing that because we compare, like, why is it, $1,200 per tree for one applicant and $400 per tree for another, and then we go back and look at the numbers and everything. So keep that in mind as well. However, the project management, readiness to proceed, project planning efforts. So we're looking at all of that. So we're asking for a little bit more detail on your schedule. Again, if you have a bidding process, let us know about that. All kinds of things. So you must commit to completing all project tasks outlined in the application, provide a brief explanation of the project and project schedule below. If part of a larger community tree plan, include a link to the plan. So interesting that you can do that. I'm wondering, I may have to go back and put the character limits in this. I don't know why they're not showing up, but there are character limits, and I'm going to guess that it's somewhere between 600 or so. I'll make sure that gets.
I think 750 is about the max for most of those boxes,
Right.
for what I remember. So we're looking for brief descriptions. You don't need to write, 5 pages of information here, but 2 sentences may not be enough information for us to be able to properly evaluate what you're trying to do as well. So descriptive, but brief.
So, and here we want to know too, if your organization has been a recipient of a Healthy Urban Tree Canopy grant in previous years, and to provide a brief summary or prior year funded projects, including implementation and scope changes, and attach a map showing trees planted and a post-implementation summary of those projects. Again, this might not apply if you're a new applicant. But you might want to talk about other grant applications that you or other tree programs that you have done, and then indicate whether your community is a member of Tree City USA or similar organization. Does your project include coordination with any other programs or organization, and provide a description and attach any letters of support and or resolutions of support. This table is brand new. So this is your urban forestry initiatives, and the funding is, we're looking at 10 different activities, right? Funding, tree commission, tree risk assessment, and each one of these has a drop-down menu. Say you don't like any of these choices in the drop-down menu, and you're like, I'm gonna write my own answer. It's not going to let you. You'll get that annoying sound every time. So this new category is 30 points in this funding table. It's on pages 17 and 18 in the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Applicant Manual. And so this one, again, if you have, things I'm writing, that's why. If you have dedicated dollars, you get the most. It's like optimal, and then moderate in that. And so we recognize that, in order to get rid of that, I'll get rid of it later. So in order to get to 30, that's going to be very hard. So you have an opportunity to give, again, brief description of your urban forestry plan. And if you have any ordinances in your community, and again, if you're a CDC or a nonprofit, you may want to work in conjunction with your community and find out how your trees will be protected. And again, just provide a brief explanation of the community's ordinances, and please provide, and again, that if you're not a municipality, provide a brief description of your organization's commitment to urban forestry initiatives and protecting the urban tree canopy within your area, and also especially the trees that you will be planting. Qualified personnel, this is a checklist, so you can check more than one. We're working with a certified arborist that has tree risk assessment qualifications, went through the tree commission academy, et cetera, et cetera. You can have all four, but we will list, we'll look for the personnel listed and their role. Please attach the statement of qualifications. I want to go back actually here. In addition to just checking these off, you can check off your tree commission meets 6 times a year with quorum. In order to get those 2 points, applicants must provide clear supporting documentation to illustrate that the forestry program is in place. So you will have an attachment, and I'll show you what that looks like toward the end. So again, we're looking for the evidence of everything you're putting in here. So clear and supporting documentation is necessary. So you see that stays because I'm still highlighting that. Here you go. This is tells you that it's a 400 character limit for here. But again, once you plan, we're looking at implementation and survivability plans. Check all the activities needed to implement the project and ensure survivability. Briefly describe the method, strategies, and frequency for the following maintenance activities over a 3-year time frame. Please note that the project funding ends within the effective contract dates, which is within those 18 months. So again, with the question regarding what happens after, you'll need to plan for that, either again with match or being creative or working with your community and your tree commission. So project location and information. So this is the same thing that we did last year. We call it project location and information. We'll need a map of the potential planting locations to the best of your ability where you know it. And again, there is an interactive website. Again, you cannot link it from the application form itself because this is locked. So if we go to, let's see, you know, I have a link for it in the important links section. So we'll go through that, but you just fill in your census tract, your equity zone score, composite vulnerability score, percent tree canopy, and your percent tree canopy score. And all of this data is available for you in the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission website and the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Viewer. So again, community impact and need, briefly describe why the project is needed in your community and how will the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy funds help leverage your community's overall forestry program, and how will this project maintain and advance the community's tree canopy, innovation and other factors. Again, this is kind of your last chance to explain how your project stands out, how it is different, and how it's going to contribute to the growth of healthy urban tree canopy. So, and this again may answer the question that I saw in the chat that Whitney Long Jones had about air quality. So again, there's your space that is character limited. I will make sure that the form, and I will email you all when it is updated, when the slideshow and this recording are all updated, so you'll know when to start filling out the application that you will submit. And the last thing is about the voluntary Holden Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Soil Inoculation Project. So this is a research project being led and conducted by Holden Forest and Gardens. And participating in this project does not impact your score. It's totally voluntary. The aim of this research is to see if the inoculation with soil containing native forest mycorrhizae improves tree growth and survivability. We have another slide on what this entails, but that is, I'm going to let Robert Brand, who is working with that, speak to that in a little bit, Robert, because I'm going to go back to the slide program, and there's pretty slides for you to talk to that too. Okay, Robert? So,
Sure.
All right. So let's see. So the application form itself, if you use this link right here, you will get to the applicant manual, the application form. We require a certification of local match. There's a template letter. This must be submitted on letterhead. Sample project expenses worksheet. You're like, oh, I don't know if that counts as trees or if that counts. We have a sample. We have an urban list of urban forestry consultants. This was based, if your name is not on there and you want to be added, feel free to contact us after this program. And then the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Map Viewer. So again, for some of you, if you have strong security measures, you may need to uncheck or check this unblock. So here's the steps that I went through. And again, if you go to our website, there's also a link to give the instructions on how to unblock the file before proceeding. So here's the local match. Again, here's the link to the charitable registration that I demonstrated earlier. And here is the certification of match template. Again, municipal or organization letterhead and signed by the chief financial officer. So we do have a sample project expenses. Again, before I get to that, use your drop-down menus. If you're concerned that you're not sure where it belongs in, see pages 12 and 13 in the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Applicant Manual. Provide the description, list all expenses, local match and grant, totals and percentages will automatically calculate. And here is our sample. So, the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy project schedule. This is, again, that was self-explanatory. That's on page 3. Again, for the tree canopy inventory pages, we have the 2 drop-down menus, don't forget. See, 750 characters. So I don't know why this isn't aligning with what I showed you today, but that will be, make sure that that is there. So again, the funding, this is the drop-down menu, and you will have your opportunity to do this. And again, for the funding, use the table on pages 17 and 18. It tells you in the actual application, but this was reduced so much for the screenshot to include in the slide that you don't see that here. And then the implementation and survivability plans. And here is, I want to review this urban tree canopy viewer. It's a little bit different. So this will show you the project location and information. There are 3 different pages. And again, this was put together with our information services department. And sometimes the equity zone will come up first. Sometimes the, oh, I put this twice. It's C1, 2, 3. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2. But again, your existing tree canopy score, and one of these should be the vulnerability score. I will update this slide before we post it. But again, the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Viewer is going to get you everything. So you will have this link and you can click it and it will take you to a page that looks like this. And it's going to take a while to download. So, and what you're seeing, the pink is the equity zones, 2079, where our office is. We want to say we are applying East 9th Street, whoops, East parentheses Street, Cleveland, Ohio. And then you click and it zooms right in. So you might need to zoom out. Then you see the borders. So then you click and we are in tract 2010, census tract 2010. And it is in an equity zone. So yes, you get 5 points. Existing tree canopy score. So existing tree canopy is 4.24%. So the percentage is down here and the points are up here. And then the climate vulnerability score. This is interesting that the track didn't match with the other one. Oh, that's the track that was taken in 2010. Here's the track number 20. Whoops, there you go. So it does match 1077.71, and then your vulnerability score is predetermined. So, and these scores are all determined based on the following maps. This is the climate vulnerability assessment. This was just recently updated from the one that was published in 2019. And it looks at a bunch of factors. And if you want more information on all that, I can discuss that with you after this program. The equity zones, if you're in an equity zone, you get 5 points. If not, 0. And then your existing tree canopy, you can see the breakdown of how the points are. So again, you may say, hey, I have it says that I have 37% canopy and something happened between 2017 and now, so that data isn't current. This is your opportunity to, again, use one of the narrative blocks to explain that, but include pictures. We certainly know there's been a lot of storm damage in recent years. We have pests, oak wilt that is a concern in communities. That spotted lanternfly is starting to be seen throughout Northeast Ohio. So definitely let us know. And finally, the community impact and need, innovation, and other factors, and the voluntary Holden Hudsey soil inoculation project. These are all on page 10. Robert, now this is your opportunity. to talk about the inoculation project with
Thank
pretty
you,
pictures.
Alison. All right. I want to reiterate what Alison said, that this is voluntary. It will not influence the score at all. You will also not have to do anything. We will do all of it, in conjunction with Holden. We're actually going out tomorrow to do some measurements, but the aim of this, we will collect the soils in the forests. We will dry them out and treat them. Then they get put into these, don't know if you can see my cursor, the middle of those three, thanks Alison, into those small coin envelopes. It's about 50 grams. That gets placed on the soil and we pour in water to disseminate the mycorrhiza. You can see that Alison's rotating the cursor around that. And this is the only component we would need your help with. It's preferable for us to be able to do this when the trees are still in their containers at one spot. It's easier, it's more efficient, rather than you plant them and then we've got to go to each tree individually, which might be in the street or in a school somewhere or another site. It's far easier for us to be able to do it while they are still in their pots. If they are burlapped and bagged, we can also do it. Again, we'd prefer to have all the trees in one spot to be able to do this. We add the mycorrhiza, we water it, and then your contractor or you go and plant them. We will measure them. As I said, we're going out tomorrow. I'm meeting Holden's staff at one of the sites. It's the first year we'll actually start getting measurements. We will do that as well. This current 2023 will be the second year, and then next year we will get the third year's results. I don't know if you want any details. Very briefly, the soil mycorrhiza help uptake of nutrients and water and carbon, and the hypothesis is that in these highly stressed environments, it might help growth and survivability. We want to measure this to see if this is the actual case. Any questions, please let us know. I think I've answered anything. Otherwise, with regards to this, that's all the information immediately I'd like to give. I also want to go back to the issue of native trees. We will not fund fruit trees and we will not fund ornamental trees. And we've had both of those requests in the past. And we want native trees to the area which have evolved here and which potentially will evolve even under climate change impacts. We understand that some people will say, oh, I've got blue spruce trees. Blue spruce, also known as Colorado spruce, which are from Colorado. So they are not native to the area. We also know that trees are imported from Oregon and Washington State to local nurseries, which arborists then buy. These are not native. We have lists. Holden Arboretum has a list. If you're confused or concerned about what is actually meant by native, have a look at those lists and use those as your guidelines.
Robert, I'm going
Thanks.
to interrupt for a second. I want to say, because we ask if they're native or non-native. If they're native, they score better. But we have in the past, if again, it's in a, if there's a master tree plan and there's a good reason, we have considered it. There are instances where we have funded. However, for a most competitive grant application, we are looking at the native. So just want to clarify that because it's.
Yes, thanks, Alison.
So,
It's not
yeah.
absolute.
It's not
Yes.
absolute. Okay.
Thanks. That's everything I need to say, unless there's some questions on the mycorrhiza or on native, non-native trees. Thanks.
All right. Again, I mentioned that we request supplemental information attachment this year. And I'm going to put this sample up on the website as well. This is a table of contents for supplemental information. I kind of use this from an application that was submitted last year. This is very, very helpful, and I highly recommend it because we'll get 50 plus applications, and they might have all kinds of information in it that we need to find. And if we don't know where to look for it, then we might overlook it because we have a short time to really evaluate these applications very closely. So again, put what you're including, where to find it. Again, for documents more than 10 pages and include links, right? So here's the ordinance, the tree ordinance for Maple Heights. And here's where we can find it. If there's a specific section you want to see, copy, paste it into a Word document, or clip out 2 or 3 pages. So that we know, highlight what you want us to know. Again, if you have a tree commission, include the link, include meeting minutes, your roster, you know, all kinds of things. So maps and documents, project location maps, census blocks. Again, some of this we're going to see, but the locations, the map is helpful. And let's see, statement of qualifications, made up some names here. Don't look for, well, everybody probably knows who David Tree really is, but yep. And again, a link to a master plan. So, and this is just a sample. This is not an exhaustive list. And again, we're gonna be, especially for your funding initiatives or that Healthy Urban Forestry Initiative section, we're asking you to supply a little bit more data. So, and again, if this is one of those things that you want to have a PDF of your Excel application, you can include it in with the supplemental information. So the schedule, well, may the 4th be with you. Here we are at the applicant workshop. Now, this is a lot. This is new. We may not be able to answer all your questions today. So the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District application, the Soil and Water Conservation District will have application assistance office hours. So this is a great addition this year. It's kind of an open house. You can zoom in, ask your questions. We can have one-on-one conversations with you. Again, other people might have the same questions based on today and the 19th. We can look at putting an FAQ together as well if we keep seeing the same questions. And then Thursday, June 8th by 4 p.m., the applications are due. I would recommend trying to get these applications in well before 3 p.m. You're going to be uploading a lot of stuff. You can share it via Dropbox, OneDrive, however you need to share it. But anything that comes in that's time-stamped after 4 p.m. is not going to be eligible for evaluation. So again, try and get all your ducks in a row and apply early. We're going to take the rest of the month of June for evaluation and scoring of submitted applications. There is a holiday in between here. So July 14th, we're looking at the announcement of grant awards. And then most important, and again, it's, oh, yep, there it is. So after the grant awards, awardees have 60 days to enter into a project agreement with the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission. We are the fiscal agent. And so 30 Thursday, July 20th, at 10 a.m. is a mandatory workshop for awardees. I would put this on your calendar now. Just assume that you submitted the most fantastic application. Get this on your calendar now. If you are already scheduled for vacation, make sure there is somebody familiar with your project that can attend. All dates are subject to change. So if something doesn't happen right away, the only thing that isn't subject to change is Thursday, June 8th. And so that's the schedule. Again, if your project is awarded funds, what are the next steps? It's really Thursday, July 20th, when we go into the details of the project agreements, monitoring projects, reimbursement and reporting, including that new annual form and any scope change forms. But before we end, I want to have you know what the monitoring of project entails by the Soil and Water Conservation District.
So for the monitoring of these, as we like to say, we want to grow trees, not just plant trees, right? So as part of that, we do want to get the opportunity to review and approve all planting and maintenance plans, including planting specs that are going out to contractors or that you may be using internally if you're doing the planting yourself. So the earlier you can get those to us, the better. Obviously, once you have those in place to move forward. If it's going out to bid, obviously we'd like to approve those before they go out to bid. When the planting is starting, we like to go over the planting specifications with whoever's doing the planting. This often, if you are doing a pre-construction meeting, this is a great time to do that. Please invite us to those if you have those, or any other kind of kickoff meeting if you have a contractor or just doing it in-house. We've seen oftentimes there's a disconnect between yeah, that's the specifications, but then the contractor gets out there and they're just dropping trees in the ground and not necessarily following those. So we just want to make sure that try to keep this aligned throughout the process. And then we need to actually observe and inspect the plantings. Now we're not going to be out on site for 10 days straight watching your crew plant trees, but really at the beginning, and then we'll check in a few times throughout as our schedule allows, just to make sure those specifications are being followed properly, those approved specifications. Because of that, and I know getting trees from nurseries and everything, there's a lot of moving pieces, parts. Please let us know, even give us a heads up like, hey, we think it's going to be the last week of April. But then once you get it nailed down, let us know, because we're trying to schedule our crew of inspectors to be able to shift things around and get out and do these inspections as well. So at least 72 hours. But even if people get surprised sometimes by tree deliveries or schedules changing, just when you know, please let us know. And then finally, if you do a tree, like a community urban forestry plan, or you're doing a maintenance plan, the new maintenance kind of projects, we do want to review those plans once they're developed, just for final approval. There are a couple of key indicators we're looking for. Just actually identify, for instance, for the urban forestry plans, we want to see you've actually identified places to plant trees in the community and what kind of maintenance kind of inspections and recommendations you've made. Now you can go ahead, Allison. And this is just, I know a lot of you are not going to be the ones necessarily out there doing the planting of the trees, but it's just a good example of some good practices when you're doing the tree planting, as far as excavating the root flare on a lot of these root balls, removing the burlap and caging, making sure you're planting the proper depth, you're not planting too deep, and also the proper mulching, no volcano mulching, just want that nice donut, no mulch touching the trees. Those are kind of the key things we're looking for, is the root flare exposed, proper mulching, and the ball materials, the burlap and wire removed. In some instances, on the especially large root balls, sometimes things can be mostly removed and stuff under, but to the greatest extent possible, those need to be removed. So,
and I'll just quickly chime in here. It is extremely important to get us involved as early as possible. And well before trees are planted. If we are coming in after the fact and you have already put trees in the ground, First, we're going to be extra scrutinous of what trees are going in there, but if we find that perhaps the wire cage hasn't been removed, we may ask you to go back and remediate those things, because survivability is of utmost importance for us for any trees that we're funding. And, you know, that's going to be something that we see through all the way to the end. So don't hurt yourself and find yourself having to spend extra money to essentially replant trees.
All right. So reimbursement and reporting and the scope change forms, that's the last part of the next steps if you are received. And again, this is information that we will go over in depth at the mandatory grant award workshop, which you have already saved in your calendars for Thursday, July 20th, 2023. Now we'll get to the question and answers, but before we do that, I'm just going to tell you the last slide has my contact information on it, and we would be happy to speak with you about the individual projects. For instance, I think I'm going to go back because I did see that question about the air quality. I think we would need to have a bigger discussion about that with what you're thinking of and what you want funding. So that would require maybe just a one-on-one conversation or conversation with the team. So contact me. And as a final reminder, before we go to question and answers, the slides and the recording will be posted on the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission website. And I will follow up with an email to all of you, and as well as my whole mailing list on when these materials are available on the website. So I'm going to throw it over to Soil and Water to monitor Q&A, and we'll all jump in as needed.
Yes, and we've got some good questions. So, and recognizing that we have 10 minutes left, we'll try to get through as many as we can. Anything that doesn't get answered, we can follow up afterwards with those responses. For organizations that already have master plans written, how recent does that plan need to be? For example, if it's been 7 years since they created it and had X number of high-risk trees, would that be enough to show a maintenance need?
I think something that would be sufficient. We just ask you provide any updates of any work that's been done in that time since the plan was developed. Now, again, if the plan is like 30 years old, that might be a little more of a lift, but you know, something that 7-10 year range, I think, is workable.
And again, you
the-
can
yeah.
provide pictures or something to show different changes as well.
Can maintenance grant money be used for former tree planting grant projects like young tree training, watering, recent plantings, etc.? Now, I'm not 100% sure if this question is referring to past HUTC trees, but no, if it is HUTC trees, we will not pay for the maintenance, because in theory, you were maintaining them as part of your past application. If they are funded through other grant projects, I would say it's likely eligible, but my gut tells me those grant projects also probably required maintenance. So those may be less competitive. And, you know, I can only say so much without knowing the details, but, you know, previous HUTC funded trees are not eligible for maintenance under this program. All right, next question. We want to increase tree canopy for the purposes of improving air quality. Can this grant cover costs associated with air quality sensor monitoring, data analyzing, etc.?
I think that's what Allison was speaking to. She said maybe we need to have a little just more in-depth conversation about what we're looking at there.
Yes, and I would say those equipment costs would likely be better suited as match, as those are not eligible under our program, but I think they would still be eligible as part of the total project. Next question, would trees located on residential tree lawns qualify for a maintenance grant? I would say yes, they would, but again, would need to really demonstrate the need of why those private trees are in need of maintenance.
Well, they're probably right away though, too. I don't know, the tree lawns.
Oh, tree lawns, forgive me. Sorry. Yes, those definitely do. All right. Let's see. For a tree planting project, would helping a community develop RFPs and score, procure, develop contracts with contractors count as administration? I would say
I'd
yes.
say yes. Yep.
Does
I missed
applying,
a question. Oh,
go ahead, Mike.
there's a question from James Hopper, I think we missed.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to answer this for him. He's a small business owner who is ready, willing, and able to plant and maintain trees. The best approach for finding organizations that are seeking contractors or consultants to implement the tree planting. I think, James, maybe look at who's joining our webinar here. And or find some local municipalities that may be participating.
Right. I would also say, send me your information and I'll email you back, because we emailed this morning, because we do have that list, so we can add them to that list
Right.
of potential contractors, right? So.
Right. I think maybe we just need to advertise that out a little more because it's kind of.
Yes. Yep. So-
Next question, does applying for less than 50,000 hurt your application? Does the grant favor larger projects? I think you will not be hurt if you're applying for less than 50. We noted that the average was 50 to 100,000, but we would accept smaller applications. Did we have a minimum established, Allison?
No, because again, the reason we don't establish a minimum is that the project that meets the red line or is just under the red line will be offered, you know, whatever we have left. So we don't want to like have that money hanging around. So establishing a minimum wouldn't do that. However, we are encouraging the bigger projects and the time to implement them this year, again, to one, have a bigger impact, and to move the money around the county a little bit by, you know, taking those 18 months, and then we can hit another group of applicants, and then, you know, that. So I would say we're looking at it more favorably, but again, if you don't need that much work, great. You know, we'll review it, but we are looking for some of the larger projects, so.
And conversely, make sure you're asking for dollars that you know you can manage, because we have this 18-month time period. Make sure that you're able to execute all of that funding within that time. If your municipality does not have a tree commission, tree city certification, et cetera, because they are disadvantaged, how can you help make up those missing points? And Allison, you're muted. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is community need and impact. So we realize that that's a reality. So, and we have those the discretionary points there. So we are looking at that, and we are also looking to help fund getting those tree commissions started. So perhaps that might be one of the things that you want to add to the ask. So.
We'll come back to this one at the end. This will be our very last one to go over the equity score again. The slide differs from the drop down, but we are getting close to time here. The final question, what is the reimbursement process? Does the municipality or organization pay subcontractors? If not, when is the reimbursement provided to the municipality in the number of days or weeks? We'll get into a lot more detail on reimbursement during the grantee workshop in July, but Susan, if you want to add anything just quickly on the reimbursement right now.
Yes, remember, we are asking for certification of funds from the finance director of the municipality or the CFO of the CDC. They are the ones who would be hiring the subcontractors. They are the ones who would be paying them. This is a reimbursable grant, so we do not pay other people's contracts for them. They're the ones who are a party to the contract. They just let us know what they need to be reimbursed for. I also wanted to say, Kristen, that there was a Kamala Lewis made a comment about the county land bank being neither, and I wasn't sure what that meant exactly. Maybe neither a nonprofit, or I'm not sure.
Or a
Or neither-
government.
or a government. I think we'll just have to discuss that individually, I think.
Yeah, and we can get back to you, Kamala, about that.
We did have one final question in there. Is it correct that local legislation is not required to apply? It is not a requirement for us as the HUTC program, but I would check with your local municipality if that is a requirement or not before you submit those applications. And kind of in that same vein, as Susan just mentioned, we do require some sort of certification from your municipality or entity, noting that you do have those funds obligated. And Allison, that's it for questions. We have 2 minutes left. So if you want to revisit equity score, maybe we do that after for anybody that wants to stick around.
Sure. So, and I don't know what the drop down menu is, but let's see, share screen, share. I'm sharing the website. So again, this is the Healthy Urban Tree Canopy viewer. And again, you have the your address or maybe your parcel number, and you click on it. And again, something different. And again, the Information Services Department said that they couldn't determine which would show up first, right? So in this case, it's the existing tree canopy score. So, and here you have the percentage, and here's the score right up at the top, and you have these little arrows. So this is the equity zone status. Basically, if your community is in the pink, you're going to get the 5 points. If your section of the community is pink, I think again, the equity zone status is defined at the block group level. So, and then the vulnerability score. So let's see, we can, sorry. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be too many overlapping here. But yeah, I don't know why it's all highlighted, but anyway. So you can just go equity zone, climate vulnerability, score 0. So that's basically it. I think that this is one of those, if you have a specific problem with a tract, but this should show you what that is. And Tom, this is your question, so I can email you or have a conversation with you with what isn't aligning with the drop-down menu and make sure I get that fixed. So. All right.
We're out of questions, Allison. So as a reminder, Cuyahoga Soil and Water will be hosting the office hours on May 19th. We will do our best to make sure that we can have a few of us available to answer any specific questions that you have. And again, if there's any specific questions before then, please reach out to the HUTC team.
And I will send a follow-up email when everything is up and updated on our website that includes that link. So, and appreciate your time this morning, and good luck with your applications. And we look forward to seeing what you're going to bring to us this year. So they're all good projects, I know. Thank you.